Thank you for joining me. My name is Ren Wadsworth, and I am joined today in the studio by Cinque Mason, one of the candidates for the 2021-2022 Associated Students of Colorado State University presidential election. Now, he's here to tell us a little bit about his candidacy and what he plans to do. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Cinque Mason. I'm a communications third year communications major with a minor in anthropology and peace and reconciliation. I have no previous history with ASCSU, but I have been working with the administration for 2 years now, or a year and a half, with Dr. Hughes, with the vice president, and Joyce McConnell in this past year.
So what made you want to campaign this year to be the president?
So I honestly never saw a lot of value in running for ASCSU. I always thought it was cool, you know. But then when I was working with Joyce and Dr. Hughes, I saw how much potential that we actually have as students to initiate change on campus, and how much we can use our bargaining power more effectively to get stuff done that we want done. And I was supposed to be traveling abroad this year, so I was thinking about running for my junior year, but then I had this opportunity to go travel abroad and do ed abroad for 2 semesters this year. But you know, Corona and stuff, where I couldn't go anymore. I was going to go semester at sea in the Middle East and do all my studies there. But then I had to do the best that I could do by staying at CSU and doing the best that I can by making a change.
So what change could you see implemented at CSU's campus through your presidency?
I'm glad you asked. The things I can see changed here on campus. Well, the number one thing we want to do is by throwing a lot of events. We think that next year is a prime year for something of a renaissance, if you will, because everybody has been isolated, and we've actually lost a lot of people from self-harm due to isolation, and we really need to bring people back together. And because I think more than ever, we have seen how humans are social beings, and we need to be in social settings with the community to feel a lot of validation. So a lot of our validation in our brain is connected to a sense of community. So we want to throw a lot of events, and one of the events we want to do is something called Cultural Week, where every day for a week we have 2 cultures expressing themselves. So we might have Africans and Black Americans on a Monday expressing themselves in the plaza doing some sort of art show. And then that night it would be in the LSC Plaza, in the LSC Theater, of them doing some sort of a showing or something of that. And then on Friday, it would be a capstone of all the cultures. And then it would be a big, fantastic cultural showing of everything at CSU, which would be awesome, you know, because we have so many cultures here at CSU. We got the cowboy culture, which is very strong. We have strong West African, strong East African, strong Mexican, strong Cholo culture, yeah. Strong Native culture. We have so many cultures here at CSU that need a spot to express themselves. And what's a better spot to express themselves than all together, you know? That's our number one thing. And we also want to bring movie night at the Canvas Stadium. You know, give everybody a chance to go out there, smell the roses again, you know, be together. That's number one. Number 2 is we want to make CSU more green. Now, CSU has one of the highest green ratings on STARS. We have a platinum rating. But there are several areas that we're still lacking. One area is air quality, another area is food waste. There's several areas. But anyways, what we want to do is bring the carbon capturing technology to CSU. And carbon capturing technology is something exactly as it sounds. It's this giant tree that's an innovation. We want to bring something called the bio-urban tree. And it's this tree. It's about, I think, 10 meters tall or something like that, the height of a normal tree. And it sucks as much CO2 up as 370 real trees. And, yeah, whoops, sorry. And I've already talked to Joyce McConnell about this, and she loves the idea because CSU wants to keep making more steps towards becoming more and more green. One other thing we want to do is start increasing pressure to get rid of single-use plastics on campus. So vending machines, chip bags, all that stuff. There's no reason we should still be using that. And then the third thing we want to do is rerouting food from the dining halls that would be thrown away or composted and redirecting them into students' bellies. That is our number 2 platform, is making CSU more green. And our number 3 thing, sorry, I'm speaking so fast. Our number 3 thing is increasing pressure on, well, let me reword that. The number 3 thing we want to do is continue efforts of the past administrations to overturn U+2. Because I just found out that U+2 was created in the 1960s to bar Eastern European people out of Fort Collins. That law was created before the Fair Housing Act of 1968. This law goes against the Fair Housing Act of 1968. But I know there's like some sort of like bylaws and stuff. So we want to overturn U+2 on the base of ethics as well as environmentally, because it's forcing housing developers, not forcing housing developers, it's forcing the market to create more and more houses in the Fort Collins area to supply how many students we have. If we could get rid of U+2, then it will alleviate some of the environmental burdens that we're causing on this area. And we're thinking of several tactics to overturn U+2. One could be something like a special elections through garnering a grassroots campaign and getting signatures and donations and getting a special elections on this to get this on the ballot. Or we could speak to the city on freezing any sort of enforcement of U+2 for the next couple of years. Because I think we need to notice, or I think we need to realize as a community how much bargaining power we actually have. CSU makes up a lot of Fort Collins economy. I mean, like, when you think of Fort Collins, you think of CSU. You know, a lot of the alumni are living in the suburbs. So we have much more bargaining power than we realize. And yeah, we're gonna see more about that.
Now that we've talked a little bit about your platforms, what do you think you bring to the table that other candidates don't?
Now, I haven't looked into the reputation or the resume of other candidates, but I think what's very unique about me and my vice president pick, who unfortunately isn't here today due to something that came up, but my unique perspective of dealing with the administration. I've worked with Joyce and Dr. Hughes, and I've thrown and done a lot of programs in the past semester alone. I've gotten stuff on RamWeb. I threw the Pen Pal program. I've been doing this stuff before I even touched ASCSU. I just see ASCSU as a greater potential to get the student voice more heard and advocated for. I like to say what really sets me and my VP apart is my experience with dealing with the administration and leadership roles. I hosted a few of the protests in Denver this year, like in the Juneteenth protests and stuff like that, as well as my VP. She is a finance major, and the number one role of the VP within ASCSU is to head or chair the Student Fee Review Board. I don't know about the other VPs, but I know for a fact that my VP is the most qualified person for that due to her expertise in numbers and money.
Yeah, so that leads us right into our next question, that student fees are a huge part of being the ASCSU president and vice president. So what promises do you have for students regarding student fee expenditures?
Student fees expenditures. I'd like to see what other people had to say about this, because the average student pays plus $1,000 in student fees every year. And that comes out to a budget of $54 million a year. And out of this $54 million, most of it's already allocated. I think up to $53 million is allocated already. So then ASCSU has a budget of $1.4 million. And half of that is for the collegiate. And the other half is for ASCSU, which about 15% of that is already allocated to payroll. So ASCSU has a small budget out of that $54 million. And we would like to look through all of the student fees and see how efficient we're spending them right now. I don't want to make any promises on cutting student fees, because I realize through cutting student fees, it sets off a whole chain reaction. But we'd like to see how efficient fees are being spent right now, for sure. One thing I would like to see with the student fees is looking at like a transparent report of how student fees are being invested. And I'd like to work with the Presidential Sustainability Commission to make sure that we divest from any sort of things that are negatively impacting our environment. Because I know that's a big goal of our university, is to divest from anything that's negatively impacting our environment. So I'd like to work on creating a transparent report on looking at that.
Yeah, and speaking of transparency, a lot of students have asked that ASCSU is a little more transparent with, again, the student fees or what goes on. Is transparency a goal for your candidacy?
Yeah, I can't speak on past candidates and what they've done. I can't speak on anybody besides myself. But one promise I would like to have, I would do, is once a week I'd be on the plaza speaking to people. I would have a suggestion box, and I'd have a QR code on the table. So if people don't want to come talk to me directly, they can write on a piece of paper, they can drop in the box, or they can scan the QR code and give a suggestion through there. I would like ASCSU to become more of, I don't know if all schools had this, but we always had like one teacher at our schools, like high school, that would like hold it down for everybody. We would like always go in her office if we needed something, if we needed like advocation or any sort of thing. If we needed it, like, I was like, yo, I really want to go to school here. She would always hook us up. I want ASCSU to kind of have that image. I want ASCSU to provide opportunity for everybody and always be willing to be corrected by students or by people not within ASCSU. We're all students, you know? Yeah, we'd like to create an app that speaks about how fees are being spent and legislation and how people are voting, as well as how the president is how the president is working and what we're doing through the week, stuff like that. I would like to keep students updated through emails or something like that. You know, I would be very transparent. I would be very vocal. I'd be on the plaza. I'd be talking to people like that.
All right. So I think that's about all the time we have, unfortunately, but is there anything else you'd like to add that we didn't touch on?
Is there anything else? Yeah, there is. I'd like to say that I believe that through electing us, we can create a culture change within ASCSU and student government. I think we're very unique on our ideas. We have several other ideas. We want to create some sort of compensation for senators. We want to create compensation for internships, unpaid internships throughout campus. I would really like to reimagine how student body government is if we were elected. I would like to advocate for every single person on campus. And I've already talked to a few people. I'm not going to talk about that. Cut that part out, would you? I would like to really make next year very rememberable, as well as impact future generations. I would really like ASCSU to become some sort of a tradition to start putting in green policy every year so we can work alongside the administration to combat climate change. Because whether anybody likes to say it or not, in the next 20 years, we're going to be severely impacted by climate change. And who even knows how our kids are going to be. And I would really like it to be student body governments all around the country to start focusing on climate change and stuff on their campus. And not just speaking about it, but acting on it. One of our big slogans is passion to action. If you have a passion, that's great, but put it into action. And that's the only time it really impacts anybody. And that's, I really hope people would vote for us. And we believe that we're going to really change some things, honestly.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for coming in today for this. Make sure you tune into CTV as we continue to cover the ASCSU election. And good night.